78. We're up to the third halacha base on page Lamtas on base. I'm posting most chasoro. Somebody who stipulates is going to provide a dowry for his son-in-law. Meis chasoro, and its potential son-in-law dies. So now the yavam, or the brother of the dead chassan, who's going to be miyabim, his daughter, wants the money. He could say, this is of course after the Erusin, I want to give you a brother, but you give Shilotain, I can't give you. Not that I can't, obviously I don't want to. So it says more, wait a second, isn't it acquired by statement meaning the Tznoim? The time they made a Tanoim on this, right? The Tanoim already promised the money. That's the purpose of the Tanoim, to make this promise. So already when he stipulated this with the Tanoim, that should suffice. And already should belong to the deceased and therefore go to his brother, right? So it says, Tani Bar Kapara said, Posek, even when we make the Tanoim, we of course make the Tanoim at the time of the wedding, right? But they in the old days used to make the time at the time of the engagement. But certainly they might have made the time to be, or certainly before the betrothal, and the betrothal already took place. So even though he writes it or agrees to it before the betrothal, his the words of Shem Kesuvos the Gillian Afran takes out. Amnasli Chnos. It's on the condition that there's going to be nisuin, and here there was no nisuin. That's the assumption that he died after Erusin. So therefore, since there was no nisuin, so therefore it's not considered to be something which he has to pay up. Says the Gemara, it says over Kini. It should be, according to Gillian Ephraim, it should be Tani. Instead of Kini. So Tani, I place the Gemara, Libito Ktana. If somebody designates money for his daughter, who's a minor, Kovino Solite, we require him to give that money to his daughter, even though she fell in front of Yavam. And there's a difference between this and the first case, obviously. In the first case, it's talking about where he designated money for the son-in-law. So therefore, the son-in-law dies, he doesn't have to give it to the Yavam. But he designated the money for the daughter herself. So he does it for the daughter herself, so therefore, even if the chassan dies, he's supposed to give it for the purpose of the daughter, no matter who she's marrying. Right? So it says, well, why don't you say Ktana? What about if it's an adult daughter? Then you don't have to give it. The Chor would be the same thing. It would be stipulated, you have to give it. So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Vilna says, Kopino Solitain, it should be here as the carbonator fixes it, Gam L'Gdoila. Gam L'Ktana, excuse me. It means, no, of course, if you stipulate to give it to your daughter who's a Gdoila, you must give it because she already acquired it. But I might think if your daughter's a Ktana, and you stipulate to give it to her, so maybe she didn't really acquire it, and maybe what you meant to do, you really meant to give it to your potential son-in-law, who of course died, and therefore might be exempt. That's why I said tell us that no, even when it's a Ktana, you still have to give it to the Ktana. Again, since you designate not for him, but for her, so therefore even if he dies, she still gets it, even though now she's going to go to the Yavam and not to the original intended husband. So it's true if your daughter's a Gdola, and even if she's a Ktana. Okay?
She's not a balas das though, so.
Well, because that's exactly the point. The point is that yes, she's not balas das, and therefore it shouldn't go to her. It won't go to her directly. It'll go to her husband. But that's the point. Since you said you're stipulating for your daughter, so it's as if it's like a bearer bond. Whoever gets your daughter is going to get the money, as opposed to when you designate the guy in the document, because so that it's him. If it's not him, then nobody else. That's exactly the point.
Well, if you're giving it to the daughter, then it's a dowry for her. If you're giving it to the future son-in-law, it's not really a dowry. It's like
a private gift to him. Right, that's the difference. Yeah. Well, nada means dowry, but it's this. Right, it's a different type of dowry. Yeah. Okay. Pascal achniso 1,000 dinar. Here's a very interesting halacha. If she's supposed to bring in $1,000 to the marriage, so who's supposed to connect though? And she does. So he's supposed to, but he writes in the Ksuba, he obligates to pay her back in case of death or divorce. Chamisha Sarmana, 1,500, a third more, because he's going to use that money to make money. So therefore, she should get back some more money. It's not ribbis because she's not really loaning it to him because he's going to own that money. So that's okay. So in any event, he stipulates to give 1,500 bucks back. However, on the other hand, Keneged Hashum, let's say she brings in objects which have to be evaluated. Shum means evaluated. So posik pachos chomish. So if he undertakes their value to guarantee, he deducts 20% because of depreciation. Because she's going to use this stuff. Maybe he'll use it too, but she's going to use this stuff in the course of their marriage. And the time that he divorces her or he dies, it's likely they'll be worth less than when they got married, right? So therefore, he deducts 20%. So for bringing in cash, he adds for 33%. For bringing in objects, he deducts
depreciation.
20%. Yeah, that's what we're saying. Depreciation for use. So, shum mana v'shavim mana. If the 1 second. She wrote that in their own Kesuvos that the evaluation is 100 and it's worth 100. Ein lo lamana, she only has to bring in something worth 100. Shum bimana, because there it was given the precise value. However, shum bimana, if they wrote the Kesuvos an evaluation for which he would undertake a mana, not that it's a value as a mana, he knows that in shloshim ve'echad sela b'dinar, she has to give 31 sela and a dinar, which is equivalent of 20% more. Okay, because obviously that's an example of where she has to, since it's evaluated property, so therefore she has to give 20% more than what's written in the Kesuvos that he undertakes to return to her at the termination of their marriage. And on the other hand, it's another example. In Bar Mosef, they wrote in that she's bringing in a shum, which is he's undertaking for 400. He knows now chamesh mils. She has to bring in something which is worth 500, which is for 20% more. Masha chasam posek uposek pachos chamesh, because whatever the chasam stipulates, he stipulates for a fifth less of what it's actually worth. Maru lomar b'ksavim echor mechta. Why they say that by money it's 1.5 the ratio, uv'shumen by valuation it's pachos chamesh, it's 0.8. What's the difference? So I'm Rabbi Yisrael Chanina. Yisrael Chanina said, "Shomi daito shel isha." We reckon or we evaluate, we assess what a woman's intent is. She wrote chalosas kela. She wants to use up her vessels, believe chososam chamesh, and depreciate them the amount of a fifth over the course of the marriage. On the other hand, Shami Daito Shish, we reckon his intent, wrote to Lisa of Litain Bohem. He wants to use the money to make money, to go to make business with it. To make him 1.5 what he started with. So therefore he has to commit that much in the Kesuvos. Rabbi Yisrael said, Zosimers teach us she'enadam rashai limchor klei ishto. Man is not allowed to sell his wife's possessions, because otherwise, right does she have to assume that she's going to use it? Maybe he's going to sell it. So it must be he has no permission to sell her possessions without her without her express permission. Says the Gemara, Dilma is a Meiser. Rabbi Chiv, Rabbi Yassi, and Rabbi Asi Sokol, Ushuma the Brat of Rabbi Yisrael Chanina. They all went to evaluate the property which was being brought into marriage by the daughter of Yisrael Chanina. Amrin Lei, so they asked, Parchus Chemesh. Once we take off a fifth, because it's chattel, it's objects and not money. The koifel, do we then double it? Now, double is not literal, but here, do we add another third? In other words, once we reduce it to money, they obviously, I assume they didn't understand our Mishnah fully, because they assumed that once we reduce it to money, let's say it was 500, right? And we reduce it to 400. But maybe in the Kesuvos, because it's property and can depreciate, right? But maybe then again we double that, we make that 600. In other words, we add on the same third, which should add on to ready money to this as well. Because once it's evaluated, maybe it takes on the qualities of ready money. It's a very strange havmina. I don't really understand it.
And why wouldn't they just go back to the 500? Why would you add even more?
Well, I don't know. That's what I don't understand. I guess somehow the Korban tries to explain that now that we've evaluated, it's considered to have the halach of ready money. I don't know exactly why.
But ready money should be the original principle.
Well, ready money, we know we add a third, though. We do add a third for ready money because he can make money off of ready money, right? Yeah, so that's how we would go back. But the thing is, it's not really ready money. It's being evaluated in its value ready money.
He'll do well.
But he can't. He can't. That's what I don't understand what the question was. He can't use this because he can't sell this. It says you just finished saying that you can't sell without her permission. Maybe they didn't know this halach you can't sell without her permission. Maybe they thought that the guy would sell the stuff after it was depreciated and then use it to make more money. And therefore they said, well, let's factor in the value, the depreciation, and then that he's going to sell it afterwards. And then so let's make it have less a fifth, and then add a third. But he told them not to. He says, no, because since it's objects and not ready cash, so therefore you don't add the extra third on to what he undertakes to pay back in the Kesuvos. Shimba Abba Shem Rabbi Yochanan says, Yichnisu lo zav, what she brings in gold objects, b'shavio, then we don't add on, take off. Gold objects don't depreciate. But he's not going to invest them either. So therefore you write them into the Kesuvos at their value. In the Tanakim, we also learned them. Learned this in this brisa. Takshitin la soson dinar. That's a type of jewelry, a type of ornamentation which you're going to make a buck with, because you're going to invest them. So then, Bechomechta, you said the chosn accepts in Kesuvos for 1.5 times their value. Dinar la soson takshitin. If, however, it's money which is going to be used to make jewelry. So then, if that's the case, so then it's not considered to be something which he's going to use to make money, because he's going to have to make jewelry out of it for his wife. So therefore, it's into the Kesuvos b'shavyon in its exact value, and again without any depreciation, because gold doesn't really depreciate. Rav Acha bar Papa Boikum Rabbi Yami. Rav Acha asked for Rabbi Yami. Yichnisu lo behemo. What's the story if she brings in an animal to the marriage? Is that like that she is written up as more or less? So you said b'shavya. That's written up at its precise value. Not a fifth more, not a 1.5, not a fifth more, not 1.5 times, not a fifth less, at 1.5 times more.
Does it appreciate?
I guess it doesn't appreciate as much an animal. You know, I mean, it might die, but it won't depreciate. You know, I guess not. Says the Gemara. Yichnis lo karka. What about land? So he said it's for its value. Why? It should be she'eno mistaker, because he's not going to make money. It should be bivhema uva karka, not vigova karka. He's not going to make money in this field or in this animal. In other words, not going to be able to raise a profit by selling them. So all he does with the field with the animals, he eats the fruit, the milk in the one case, and the fruit of the field in the other case. So therefore he gives, but he writes to, and they don't usually depreciate. So therefore he writes to his wife the land, or the actual value of the land, not anything more, not anything less. Okay. She stipulates to bring him in ksafim sloim. That's how many dinars is that? I think it's 4. So you add a third more, nasa shisha dinar, becomes 6. Now chazim kabel of eser dinar, the kubel chol mana mana. Chazim himself to provide it with 10 dinar and a container of fragrance, of perfume, for every mana she brings into the marriage. But Shigamil says no, it depends on the minhag and the medina. On the question, what is it exactly that has to do? Do you have a phone here?
Yeah.
I don't even know what this is. The question is, what does this has to do? Some Pascal Achnitzlo b'chamesh mils dinar. It's really repetitive with the last Mishnah. She agreed to bring it to him something which is 500 dinar, shum, evaluated objects. So, well, I say Osam Arbamios, right? What is he supposed to write into the Kesuva? 400, right? Because he deducts 20%. Now, here's the key catch. Lo Osa Kain. He didn't do that. Elo Osa So Elef. He wrote 1,000. Now, the question is he an idiot? See, oh, now I hear somebody. So she wrote 1,000. He was an idiot, okay? Oh, actually, I shouldn't say it. Maybe he did. We'll see. So he wrote 1,000. So Imasos Kitsusa. If they value the substance, then he knew it was worth 500. So Goivasako. She takes everything, okay? Because he was giving her a gift, right? Bimlav, if he didn't know, still, Migra Chamisha Dinar, the Chosela, he takes off 5 dinar for each seller, meaning that he drives it down to 400 instead of 500, but Eino no gave it to Sefes. Oh, it wasn't. Did you try paging me? Did you try paging me?
No.
Because I was paged by some number. I figured maybe it was you who were locked out.
No.
You know how to get in, right?
You just got it, right?
You're just late, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So,
I just unfortunately stopped by my girlfriend, so she hadn't given me.
girls, that's the problem. You gotta stay away from those girls.
Remember, you're on tape.
Yeah, okay.
Reason number 82.
Yeah,
Women should learn that.
that's right.
Especially with you as a market shooter.
Okay. Hurry up. Memo Moral, 79. We are ready to almost the bottom. So, Pascal Achnitzlo b'chamesh mils dinar. Let's start from the Gemara again for your honor. Starting from Gemara on page, ma'am. Oh, right there. Yeah, what's on there? Okay. Pascal Achnitzlo b'chamesh mils dinar. So she was supposed to give $500 worth to him. Shum of materials. So sales Samar Bamos. So he's supposed to write. He is supposed to undertake, in case of death or divorce, to repay at the rate of 80%, to minus the depreciation. So they actually is supposed to write 400. Losa Kena Losa So Elef. He wrote 1,000 instead, as his undertaking for her $500 worth of property. Imosas Kitsusa. If they knew in advance. They reckoned it was worth $500. He knew it was worth $500. She knew it was worth $500, and he should have written $400, and he wrote 1,000 anyway. So she gets everything full 1,000. Im lav, if not, migareh chamish dinar chosel. He takes off 5 dinar per seller, which means he takes off 20%. But that's only of the 500. Veno gave it those service. The extra 500 he guaranteed her that he's got to give her anyway. Well, so how much does he have to give her in total, or right into the Ksum in total? How much? 900. He wrote 1,000. He actually has to give her 900. So it takes the 20% of the 500, right? Because he didn't know how much it was. But the extra 500's got to give her anyway. And then one is going to ask why in a few minutes. Says the Gemara, Pascal Achnitzlo, Chamesh Mos Dinar, Ksafim. Now, the other case is where she was supposed to bring in $500 worth of cash. And Allah is supposed to bring that, but it's cash. He's actually supposed to accept upon himself the responsibility for a third more. Why a third more? Because he can make money off of that. So, therefore, to take into account his profits. So, really, he's supposed to write into also some Sheva Mil Samechta. Should write 750 instead of 500, right? Right? Loss, okay, he didn't do that anyway. And also son Elef, here too he made it 1,000. So what's the story in this case? So if he knew he was obligating himself, it was 500. She gets all 1,000. Because he knew exactly what he was writing in, so she gets everything. Im Lav, they didn't make a valuation, so of the how much the cash is worth. So Migareya, Shisha dinar chol sela. He goes down 6 dinar per sela. A sela is 4, so 6 dinar is 6. So basically, it means he goes down to that rate, and he goes down to 750. And here instead of ain't no nogeh b'tosefes, it should be the nogeh b'tosefes. Here he takes off the extra 250. Okay, so the first case where he wrote 1,000 instead of the 400 he should have written, he ends up being responsible for 900. 400 which should have been responsible for, and the extra 500. Here we wrote 1,000 instead of 750, so then he's only responsible for the 750, not for anything above that. Okay? The more is going to ask why in a minute. Yet another case. Poskol achniso elav zuz. She used to be able to bring in $1,000 cash. Tzorach lasos on chamisha ceremony. He's supposed to make them $1,500 because he's supposed to write a third more, right? Lo asakin didn't write this. Ella, however, kosav lo asadish shaveh b'shnei masar mona. He wrote her a responsibility based on a field which is worth $12,000. Okay, so he's short $3,000, right? So shnei masar mona tachas elv zuz for this 1,000. If they made an evaluation, kleves hakol, she takes everything, but here it's to her disadvantage, because here actually, what does that mean? She only gets the 12,000.
It's not really 12,000 though. You don't have to reduce it by
No,
10%,
no. She really should get for more. She's losing it because she brought in cash. She should get 15 grand back. But it says she's only getting 12 because she knew what I was getting into. You laugh. If not, if they didn't make it to so then you can't. 12,000 will not suffice. Why? Because ain't blochin l'bsula v'sayim almana miwana. You can't give a bsula less than 200 and almana less than 100. That was a very interesting thing. What I was saying, if I give her 12,000 and she should really get 15,000. Then in essence, what I'm doing is I've not given her a ksuva d'oraisa, because really whatever ksuva I give her, let's say I give her 12,000 plus the ksuva d'oraisa, which is another 100 or 200, but that 100 or 200 really is part of the 15,000 she should have gotten, right? She should have gotten 15,100 or 15,200. If I give her just 12,100 or 12,200, she never got her ksuva d'oraisa. So therefore, he's saying you can't. If there was no kitzusa, even though she's getting more than she brought in, but since she's not getting what she actually should get as a ksuva d'oraisa, so therefore it doesn't work. Okay, she has to get the 15,100 full. Okay, or 15,200 full. Now the Gemara is going to analyze this. Says the Gemara. Now here the question has to be reversed. There are two questions here, and in my opinion, this I'm going to give you my pshat more because I didn't like anybody else's pshat. In my opinion, I'm going to switch the gears. We're going to the question which is 2 lines hence we're going to put here, and the question 2 lines hence are going to which here are going to put 2 lines hence. So here it should say at. Skip down mamish 2 lines exactly below the at. Nogeh b'tosefes v'achad mar, or hachad mar, it should be nogeh b'tosefes v'achad mar eno nogeh b'tosefes. And I don't understand what's interesting. I mean, the more will explain, but I understand right now what's interesting. In the first case, where you was put 500, you wrote 1,000. That she gets the extra 500. That she gets 900 altogether. And the second case, you said nogeh b'tosefes, that where you should have written 750, and instead you wrote 1,000 instead. That she doesn't get the extra 250 between 750 and 1,000. What's the difference? So says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Combinat lemiktas, because by the case of the 750, she's getting part of the additional amount. She's getting 250 more. That suffices. In other words, she already got into that 250, the extra 500, right? By having the extra 250, that suffices to fulfill his obligation to add to her. He doesn't have to add to her anymore, right? However, kam shalonikta in the other case, in the case where he was supposed to write for 400, right? and say wrote for 1,000. So then, if you don't give her the full extra 500, then she got nothing. And of course, it's either the extra 500 or nothing of the extra amount which he wrote to her. So therefore, he's got to give her the full extra 500. Do you see the difference?
Say it again.
Where he's supposed to write, where was cash, and he was supposed to write 750. Instead, he wrote 1,000, right? So he made a mistake. So he only has to give her 750. He doesn't have to give her the extra 250 because she's getting above and beyond her original amount anyway, which is 500, right? So that 250 covers it. He didn't have to write any more than that, and he didn't intend to give her a gift. He knew he had to write above it. He obviously didn't know exactly how much to write above, so he wrote 1,000. So we correctly said it was a mistake, right? So the extra amount above the 750, the extra 250 you don't have to give. But in the case where it's the opposite, she brought in materials, and therefore, which are 500, and she had 400, right? Certainly not more than 500, but she should get 400 really. So there we see, obviously meant to give her the extra 500 as a gift. So in that case, since he doesn't have to give her any of the extra amount, and if he's not giving her any of the extra amount, if you take it away from him and say he doesn't have to give it, so if we say no, let him give the whole thing. He has to give the extra 500. Okay? So it depends whether she's eating into something above her 500 already, such as where she brings in money, and she's going to get 750 anyway. That suffices, and obviously she has to pay the extra 250 because we say it was just a mistake on his part. Or where on the car, if you don't give her, or if you didn't give her the extra, she would get nothing. In the case where she was supposed to get instead of 500, not 750, but 400, right? So and he knew that too. So therefore, it must be that in that case, he knew she actually gets the full extra 500 because obviously there wasn't a mistake, but rather it was a gift to her. So that's the difference. If not la miktas, if she's getting already part of it, so we say the rest of the mistake, or lo not la miktas, where she's not getting any of it, but obviously he knew that he was giving her a gift at the time. Okay? And the next question is, Hachat Amar, and I'm switching again, back 2 lines above. Amar Migra, here you say you detract. V'Hachat Mar Eno Migra, and here you say you're not detracting. So the question here is like this. The question is that we said before that if you promise 12,000 instead of the 15,000 you should give, that you're going to detract from the Ksuva D'Oraisa, right? And yet, on the other cases, we're not concerned with detracting from the Ksuva D'Oraisa. Why is that? So it says, I'll tell you why. Taman, in the cases, Taman Hosi Philopiches. In the other cases, where you add on, you don't detract from the Ksuva D'Oraisa. Why don't you detract from the Ksuva D'Oraisa? Because let's say you're writing 1,000, right? No, that's not the case I meant. So you're right, you're writing her $1,000, right? Yeah, I did mean what I was about to say. You're writing $1,000 instead of 500, right? So she's going to get more than she should have gotten, right? Even in the case where you're writing her $1,000 to 750 and she goes back down to 750, she's still getting more than her 500, right? And more than she's getting what's coming to her. She should be getting 750. She's not getting any gifts. Like the first case, she's getting a gift an extra 500, but she's getting what's coming to her. And then he'll give her the ksuva beyond that. But if you wrote for her 12,000 instead of 10,000, so she's not getting anywhere near what she's supposed to get. I'm sorry, you wrote for her 12,000, for her 10,000 instead of the 15,000 that you should have written her. So then she's 3,000 short of what you should have gotten. So therefore, that extra, if you give her 12,100, 12,200 to fulfill the Ksuva D'Oraisa, you're not fulfilling the Ksuva D'Oraisa. Because she really should be 50,100, 50,200. So that's the more it says here. Tamanosif, where you're adding in the 2 cases of 1,000 or 750, or actually it was 900 we said, case where it was 500, she brought in 500 worth of goods, and we were supposed to go down to 400. But besides, they added 500 for the gift, so there she's getting 900. In the second case, she's supposed to get 750, and he wrote 1,000, and we correct him down to 750. So in both those cases, she's getting above and beyond her original principle.
Okay.
Right, and she's not to try, and certainly whatever she gets beyond that is a Raisa, right? But she became either what she's supposed to get beyond her principle, or even more than that. But in the case where she brought in 10,000, and she should have written in response 15,000, and he only wrote 12,000. So there, as it says here, but here, by giving her 12, it looks like he added, but it's not. He really detracted and didn't add. Truth is, here I might even be inclined to change the Gemara to Hacha Hosif Upiches. Here he added on to her 2,000, but he really was deducting for her because she should get 15,000, right? So therefore, that's really a deduction. Okay. Says more further. Tanya, we learned. Bein b'shum, bein b'ksofim. What's over my here? This Bryce argues. Bryce says, bein b'shum, whether it's goods, bein b'ksofim or money, b'shum ma, you have to estimate what it's worth. B'shum ma is like b'shuma. You have to estimate what it's worth. Lefi mashu poiches, based on its possible depreciation, l'fi mashu mosif, and its possible appreciation, fi mashi machneses, and based on the quality of the goods she's bringing in. Which really means it's not a set sum. We said till now, if she brings in cash, he accepts self-responsibility for a third more. If she brings in goods, she accepts the responsibility for a fifth less. But now we're saying it depends on the quality of the goods, what's being brought in, and whatever the possible depreciation is. So this price argues. I don't know. We paskin like. I don't think we paskin the price. But the price argues. Says the Gemara, Kini Masisa. Getting back to Mishnah. Mishnah said that for 100, you give her 100 money and a spice and a basket of spices. So what is the Mishnah saying? Kini Masisa is the way to read the Mishnah. V'kupas b'samim. It means you give her a container of spices, likol mana, for every mana she brings in. That's the fascinating thing. I don't know when you give her these spices. They're really perfumes. I don't know if you get at the beginning of the marriage. I think it means in the course of the marriage. I'm not sure exactly when. But for every 100 mana she brings in, you have to give her some perfume. It doesn't say what kind, but you have to give her perfume. Says the Gemara, why? Rabbi Yochanan said, also anoyes b'sami kanayis ksavim. They made the pleasure perfume like the pleasure of money, meaning that just like you have to give her 33% more evaluation she brings in cash, you also have to give her more fragrance, right, corresponding to the cash she brings in. Says Ma'am Rabbi Avin said, you know why? Because also anoyes period of a rivia kanoyes ksavim. Because why does he have to add 33% more to the valuation? Because he's going to make, if she brings the money, he's going to make money off of her money, right? Mm-hmm. So too, why? Hopefully, right. So too here, is similarly, by giving her samim, he's going to have hanoah too. What's hanoah is going to have? It's going to have period of rivia, right? It's going to be able to. It's going to be more of a relationship, right? So therefore, it's like the psalmim. The psalmim is part and parcel of the hanoah, which he's reciprocating for the potential that he can invest the money. Okay, says the Gemara, and this is like Talmidei Rabbi Yossi, Salkon lekachin. The students of Rabbi Yossi went to Kachin, and Ashkechun Rabbi Yossi found Aririn. Rabbi Yossi found that they were barren. Why? So he said, Asnisun beinechon, did you make conditions between the two of you? How much perfume you have to give your wives? If you make conditions, that's good. Conditions. However, there everything goes like minhag dino, and of course the minhag in our Mishnah is that for every 100 $1 she brings in, you have to give her a bucket full of perfume. It's again, I don't know when. But anyway, the main thing we're saying is that the reason why you are barren is because you're not keeping the takonas chazal, which has to do period of rivya, which is the provision of perfumes, because that would be a very, very practical way to enhance the period of review among yourselves. Okay? So that was by the Chazal. Obviously felt that there was a continuum here between the money she brings in and the Hanoah period of review, which is due to her, right? And the way we facilitate that is providing for the takana perfume. Okay?
This is called the scent of money.
The scent of money, right. Okay, I was waiting to see how you were tied into the Spindel principle. Okay, says the Mishnah further. Hamesi is bitos tam, if somebody marries off his daughter without stipulating a dowry. You shouldn't give her less than 50 zuz. What if the guy's really a miser, and he stipulated he's going to marry off his daughter naked? He's not giving her a thing, not even the shirt off her back. The husband can't say, I'll clothe her when she comes to my house. She has to go to the street like Lady Godiva, right? Because I'm not going to give her clothes until she gets here, right? Can't say that. And the mechasa boy, basically he has to cover her while she's still in her father's house. The chenim seem is somebody marries off an orphan. Shouldn't give her any less than 50 zuz. If there's more money in the communal pot, then we give her according to her dignity in life. Of course, the Gemara is going to talk about that if that's exactly what it means, but that's good for now. Rabbi Mori, Rabbi Yossi. The brother Rabbi Yossi said, the boy he asked, Lo kein tani, didn't we learn? Minayin afilu amar, how do we know that even he said, Hareni made a room? A husband says, I want to be naked. I'll walk around in a barrel, right? As long as I can clothe my wife, which is very romantic of him, right? And how do we know that in that case, we do not say that he should stand naked and clothe her in whatever he wants to adorn her in, whatever finery he wants to get her. And the mechasa b'roila, he just gives her whatever she's worthy of, right? So he doesn't have to fulfill his condition. So says the Gemara, if that's the case, how come in our Mishnah he has to? How come in our Mishnah he has to clothe her in her father's house, right? Obviously, that's above and beyond what I would call, says the Gemara, broila. In other words, broila means that she's in my home. That's whatever's suitable for that time. Why I have to cover her while she's still in her father's house? So it says, basically what it means like this. It's just that we don't make him stand by a statement over here and clothe her in the finery, but he just says give her whatever's suitable for her. So to Kavachomer, really, we shouldn't make her clothe their wives while they're still in their father's house, but only when they get to their husband's house. There's no. Tamar urcha lebar nasha. There, it's the normal there of a person is Meimar. He says this very romantic statement, which he doesn't mean. It's just lying. It says, "Hanili mekumartzloi, be better for me to stand naked, and cover my wife with jewels." But he's lying. We know he's lying. He's just trying to curry favor with her, right? So nevertheless, there we know he's not full of baloney. Ramhacha, but here, when he says he accepts upon himself the condition of marriage, and that the father or the bride said, I'm marrying her off naked. That means you have to clothe her when she comes from my house. So there he accepted the condition somebody else made. He's got to abide by it. Okay? If he himself just said that romantic language, I'll go naked in order to cover my wife with jewels. So we say you're being romantic, but nobody can hold you to a lawsuit based on that. But here, where he said to the father of the bride, he agreed that he's going to accept her naked, meaning that he'll clothe her in her father's house. that he has to abide by that condition he made with somebody else. Okay? Says more, Kini Masli, so the way to read our Mishnah. Here's a bit of a typo. According to yours, the way to read is is like this. I think it's a very nice dichotomy. It should be who's got to pay $50 if the parnosim of the city, that was the city's what's the word?
Community chest.
Yeah, community chest. If they're marrying off, so they have to give her $50. For us, but if a Baal Bus marries off a Yisayma, so whatever you can give, you can't compel to give $50. It's not fair. So Amar Echin says also Meris. This teaches us. Shomrim, we say the foreigner sin. We say to the city, the community chest, the city councilman. We say lilavos, right? To borrow money to make up the $50. To Potzala, because he explains Rabbi Chanina, b'shein kis l'kis, when there is no money in the community chest, loving at chamishim, so the people in charge have to borrow money up to $50 in order to marry off the Yisoima. Im yesh b'kis, but if there's money in the wallet even beyond that mosif, then we can add on to this kala to make it an even nicer wedding. Okay? Rabbi Yisrael said on the contrary, we don't tell the community chest gaboim to go borrow money. Do Patzala, because he says the only time we give 50 zuz is b'sheish cases where there's money in the community chest. Avlim aim b'kis, but if there's no money in the community chest, there's less, then poches, right? In that case, then you give less, right?
Enough oil to keep things going.
Yeah.
Would you light it and wait and see maybe a miracle will happen?
Right, it's a similar idea. So let me just say it over again quickly. Says because I don't know where I lost the soundtrack. Kadabi al dachas, 4 lines for the Mishnah. Rabbi Ami, Amrei Yishtabel had to leave her to. Rabbi Ami says not enough money in the pot. Let's leave her till Yontif, right? After Yontif, see what happens then. You're going to cause it to lose. Eliisko, use up the money now. Hi, what about Yontif? The Morei Moadakam, the master of Yontif, so well, he'll take care of it. Besides Rabbi Chino said the aldermen have to be talking, they have to go borrow money for her. That's what Rabbi Zira said, marry off and worry about Yontif later on. Rabbi Yossi said, no be talking, whatever money we have in the pot, we give her, we can't give her anything else. That's what Rabbi Ami wanted to wait till after Yontif in order to marry her off. Okay? Mishnah, that was much easier than the first time. She'll leave the tape off for more of it. Okay, Yisoima Shisiyasaima. A Yisoima who was married off by her mother, V'achen, her brother. Now, because of Me'av Chamishim Zuz, now they were a dowry of 150, the minimum. And she's supposed to get, do you know how much she's supposed to get? Or you someone who gets married, you know how much she's supposed to get of the property? A tenth.
No.
A tenth of the property. So they wrote her much less. Her brother or her mother who married her off. They were finks. So what does she do when she grows up? She's a red-blooded American. What does a red-blooded American grow? Sue, exactly. You got it. She goes and sues them for the money. Watch for what she should have gotten. If you married up the older daughter during an older daughter's lifetime, you give the second one who gets married after his death whatever the first one got. Say not true. Sometimes he was poor during life, then married and then he got rich after he died, got insurance money, right? So therefore, you give the second daughter, she get a more lavish wedding, more lavish dowry. Or Usher, maybe he's rich during his lifetime vanity, estate taxes did him in, right? So after his death, he gets less. So we evaluate the property and that give her on that basis. It says Markini Masnisa. This way to actually read on Mishnah, slightly different. In Misi Sabasri Shoina, you know, saying if you married on the first daughter, then you give, here's a few words missing, Rabbi Shita. It should say, Yinasin Lashnia, you give to the second one, Geder Shasri Shoina, like the first one, Dive Rabbi Yehuda, right? Now back to the Gemara itself. The Gemara says, "Tibra chachamim according to chachamim, pa'amim." It should be or chachamim pa'amim. Sometimes not true. Sometimes other Macy is bito. Sometimes a married guy marries off his daughter. The nice little most he's got to pay for her to get married. Pa'amim. Sometimes the guy shows the Macy is bito. Somebody has a daughter who he's marrying off, and she's beautiful or she's accomplished or whatever. The night most and people pay to marry her. So if you can't extrapolate from one daughter might be ugly as sin, and the other daughter might be beautiful as the moon, or vice versa. So therefore, you can't extrapolate from one to the other. Each one has to be assessed independently. Rab Zir showed Rab Nachum Yaakov. Zir asked Rab Yaakov, Rab Ami, Rab Papi, Rab Papi. Matan Isla Chaz. Musa Tana came with this idea of every the daughter after her father's death gets a tenth of property when she gets married. Amla Rabbi Zir B'Shem Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Zir said name Rabbi Yirmiyah. Isla Chazin Karebi. It's like Rebbe. Bone clear Rabbi. So they asked Rabbi the final question. Ratio Esna Kavas. What if a guy had 10 daughters? The Uben and one son. If the first one takes the 10th, the second takes the 10th, and the third, fourth, and fifth, the chain out says up to 10. In Cain, if that's the case, so this line has nothing left for him, right? So he said, no, you misunderstood. Aishana tells the first one gets a 10th of the full property, that's 10%. The Yitzis and she goes. Hashniya no tells she takes a 10th of what's left, which means she's actually getting at what percentage? Right, 9, right, or 9%. Vashlish is the third daughter, meaning Mishtara, she gets what's left. What's that? 0.8, right?
It's like the mice.
Right. Varvius, meaning Mishtara, and the fourth one, what's left. Ada Sirius up to the 10th, meaning Mishtara from what's left. Nimtzu, if you have 10 daughters, so Nimtzu Abanos Nodlos train Chukin, the daughters get 2/3, part of Tzivchar minus a little bit. Ben until Chad Chulik of Tzivchar, he gets 1/3 and a little bit more than that, right? So even Isun Nechasim won't break the bank, right? Because it gets progressively less each Isun Nechasim, right? Says the Gemara, Hareshu Sheina Kevus Ben Echad. What if they're 2 daughters and 1 son? Another Rishon Isun Nechasim first gets a 10th, right? The second daughter didn't get her 10th before Achimei Saban until the son died. Now, if the son died, there were 2 daughters and a son. Who inherits the son? His sisters, right?
Oh, wait a second. The son?
Father's dead.
Father's dead.
Okay. Because obviously she was married off by her brother or sister.
Father's brother?
No, these 2 girls.
Sister?
So these 2 girls, who are the sisters, actually. So they split up his property. So now, wait a minute. First daughter got a 10th off the top, but she got married.
Right.
So how should they split it up now? So it's a machlokas, of course. The second daughter gets her 10th off the top. The rest they divide up equally. Said, no, it's not comparable. The only time she gets Yitzhak Nechasim is when she had no other way to provide herself with the dowry. But here she's dividing up the full estate. Well, Tim Koris Ashar, but these parts of men let her get her parnasa from whatever she sells. He doesn't just to get the additional amount over the other girl in this case. Okay, is that clear what I'm saying? Did I make myself clear? In other words, where Yitzhak Nechasim Yochanan says it's only a takana, where the property is being held by one of the boys to give the girls a method to pry it loose. But if anyway the girls are holding on to the property, they don't need a 10th, right? It's true one of them got a 10th off the top. But now the second girl doesn't need a takon of a 10th because nobody else is holding her property. So she'll get 50, they divided 50-50 the remaining. It's true that one daughter came out ahead, but that doesn't matter because the takon of Yitzhak Nechasim was to get property out of somebody else's holding it, not to take it out of your co-inheritor. So whenever when the girls inherit the boy, you don't have Yitzhak Nechasim. Okay? Rabbi Tai B'Shem Rabbi, she said, what goes on over here. Alright, so I have Rachmanis on you. It's getting late. I have Rachmanis on myself too. So let's stop here and we'll take it from here tomorrow night.